Council to order. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please stand and recite the pledge with us. Oh, we lost our flag.
I'll flip them.
Oh, we did.
So just
Okay.
like this. I pledge. Is it around the corner? Hannah's got it. Oh, there we go.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Councilor Lickey, for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Next order of business is citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the mayor. In consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Also, the Lewiston City Council pledges to practice and promote civility within the governing body, advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of the city. If you'd like to provide citizen comments tonight, I would invite you to the microphone. Please introduce yourself, your city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes. Please speak clearly and loudly so those listening at home can hear what you have to say. Welcome.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is John Crawford. I live at 501 Burl Drive in Lewiston, Idaho. I've been a resident of the city of Lewiston for in excess of 55 years. I've written some notes down here. The concern that I have primarily is that I was a recipient when I worked for the city of Lewiston for the Quality Public Service Award, one of the very first that was offered years and years and years and years ago. And basically that was quality public serve was how we basically treated our citizens. The water tank failure that occurred in January flooded the residence of my daughter and Sean Miller at 2413 11th Avenue. Since that time period, well, first of all, there was no warning of anything impending. And I had talked to people in the public utility districts. They all have alarms that are associated with these tanks. So in the event that you should have a leak, you have an accountability of your actual water. They also have alarms that would indicate if there were any potential failure. When the water came down, it broke out the windows of the basement, and approximately 3 feet of water came into their bedroom. When it did, it pinned their door closed. Had they had not been able to be fairly young and viable, Shadden would have been able to break the door open. Had that been an infant or an elderly person, there would have been a death involved. The 2 foot of water was spread throughout the rest of the house. Sean broke the door and let the water out, and anyways, we got the destruction. The house was basically destroyed on the inside of the basement because they had no flood insurance. And if I may, how many of the people on the city council currently have flood insurance? Okay, so you're not covered for anything, any surface water. So you'll be in the same pool as the rest of us. The house was destroyed. There was no flood insurance, so no coverage by any of the homeowners insurance because of surface water. One of the first things you want to do after that is call a company to come mitigate the mold and the mud. That was done, and after that was done, a bill was received from that company. That company had about a $35,000 bill for the mitigation of that. They didn't have $35,000 hanging out in any of their accounts. So what they did is they sold their camper, which was kind of near and dear to them, so they could pay the mitigation, because the only other option was to not pay it, pay 18% per annum or per month for a late fee, and also probably have a lien put on their house. The mitigation company had their bill paid, and so that they no longer have that liability over their head because they were able to sell some of their assets. After that was done, we found out that in the area where the water went, the sewer line was exposed. We called the city of Lewiston. They came out, they took some pictures of it. We talked to some folks, called them back, and they said, you know what, the sewer line's on your property. Have a nice day. It's your problem, not ours. Okay. Then Avista had the folks from Asplin come down and take down a tree because it was potentially going to fall onto their power lines. So the guys from Asplin came and they cut the tree down. They left it on the ground. We're not building riparian habitat for steelhead. We're trying to make this thing so that the water can go through. So, and then Avista said, well, basically, we don't have a record of this. So I characterized it as a couple of boys from Asplin just driving around one day, decided to stop at this guy's house and trip it down a tree and leave it. Think about that. So there's no record that was produced by that. The 12 to 15 feet of the property was washed away, and the city has an easement there, but apparently from talking to the city, when there's damage done to an area that carries water from storm drains or from stormwater, if it's the homeowner's responsibility to fix that, not the city. They have no liability. The house has been vacated for 6 months now. It's uninhabitable. The repairs that they have come up with are in excess of $200,000. They have had to, let me read my notes here. They are now faced with the fact that they had to leave the residence, find another place to live, move all their stuff out. They're still paying for mortgage, they're still paying for insurance, they're still paying utilities, and now they have a secondary place that they have to live and pay all those things. The city only has $500,000 in insurance. So if there's 20 people that have had some type of damage from this, this is roughly $25,000 a piece. That's not going to be even close to coming with the losses that occurred from the water tank failure. The city insurance carrier has been no help. We've had very little help and insight from the city of Lewiston, from its employees, or from its managers. The city has never come by, except for you, Mayor Johnson, came by, and I saw you one day, the day after it happened, okay? But no one's ever come by. No one's ever sent anything in the mail. There's no, what should I say? There's no consoling the residents. They almost seem like they're second-class citizens. Just 3 weeks ago, the city of Lewiston sent $1 million worth of equipment for a fire that occurred on a structure fire outside the city limits. They were willing to send $1 million worth of equipment and manpower to people who don't even live in the city. And yet when you live in the city, you get no help whatsoever. There's not been any guidelines for the tort claims. In my estimation, the city should be ashamed of itself by the way it treats its citizen. This is certainly not a good example of quality public service. And I'm going to leave it at that. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
I'd certainly
John.
entertain any questions.
We don't take questions at this time, but I appreciate you being here tonight and sharing these words with us. I will do some follow-up. I don't know if I'll have any answers for you, but we're getting close to closing down some of this work, getting our water back online, and we still have a lot of work to do. I know that, so.
Yes.
But I appreciate you coming here, and I will try to make a second visit and see if there's anything else that I can do maybe to help in that manner. But we're trying to work through this, and appreciate your patience.
Well, the only thing I can say is put yourself in their shoes. Move your family, find another place to live, uproot everything, sell anything that's prized so you can pay the bills. And if I end up here at the end of 1 year, I'm not sure that I will be quite as eloquent, but I'm not so sure that there's much the city can do. With only $500,000 worth of liability insurance under Idaho code, that seems to be just an inappropriate amount of money for a liability. When I see every day in the newspaper where somebody is awarded X number of dollars for hot coffee or this or that or whatever else it may be. I would hate to see, I see the police chief here. Chief, I would hope that never be a situation where one of your officers would be found liable, you know what I'm saying, for something inappropriate. But,
I'll follow up, John.
okay, well, thank you very much. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
being here.
Thank you. Mr. Crawford.
Mr.
Welcome.
Mayor, Council, my name is David J. Funky, live at 2509 Seaport Drive. This is not about the water issue, but kind of going off of what he said. It's a downright insult to we the people what has happened with your social media pages. I get that there are people that abuse it. Fine, ban them individually. But this all or nothing mentality of whoever works in the city departments behind the scenes, these unelected officials that are basically giving us the middle finger, saying your First Amendment rights don't mean diddly squat to us on your social media is uncalled for. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Kathy Dickinson, and I'm a resident here in Lewiston. And first of all, I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to the fire department here in Lewiston, because on July 2nd, we had a really big fire at the Sunset Park. And it didn't end up as big, but it was where it was, and the wind was blowing so bad that it came so close to several homes. But not only that, it also came real close to our water reservoir, the one that we're operating on now that's the emergency. So the winds were high. They really did a good job. And so a big thank you to them on how fast they responded. The other thing I want to talk about is that the reservoir that was demolished, the high reservoir, I've heard how great of condition it was in for its age. But when the trucks went by, several trucks went by with wood on it, it looked like a 100-year-old fishing dock that was just pulled out of the ground. And it looked black, really black, most of it, with big white spotches. To me, that would indicate mold, but it just looked old and rotten. And some of it actually fell off the truck in my yard. And I wanted you to see that I'm not just saying this. This is what the wood looked like. That's not structurally sound, in my opinion. And a bunch of it was splintering apart. Not to mention OSB. There's only certain grades that are approved for water, but this stuff is just falling apart. I kept it in a bag because it was so falling apart. So this isn't, structurally sound, in my opinion. So I don't know how NB could say that that was in good condition. The other thing was about a week or two ago, all of a sudden, my swamp cooler looked like somebody sprayed it with popcorn, like the kind that you used to spray on the ceilings. And we cleaned our swamp cooler out and changed the filters. And just out of one filter, this is only a little bit of what came out of one filter. And this is calcium. And I know calcium is good for you, but if you get too much, it sure isn't, especially not when you're breathing it. So that's basically all I got to say, but I think we really needed a new reservoir for the people to drink water out of before we needed one for a park. Because putting a reservoir up there for a park before we get a new one, I don't think that was a very good choice. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Rick, welcome.
Rick Eldridge, Lewiston resident. I'm here to talk on a couple of things, but my main thing here is the Joe Gish thing has come back up, and being part of the Lewiston Smart group, which Mo Anderson, which he's on the lands or whatever, the lands committee, what is that? Planning and zoning. Now you guys are trying to put Joe Gish, which is, it's already, the URA, it's already airport favored heavy, you know, so I mean, you guys would just give them a majority. I think it needs to be tabled, and if you're having trouble finding someone to maybe put in for it, maybe you ought to advertise that there's seats available for the URA, instead of just being secretive about it. And let's get some people, give the people a chance to get on there instead of this group, which you know what I'm talking about, Dan. You were picked by them, handpicked to run this town. You, Hannah, and I could go on another couple more, you know, and then you got handpicked Spicklemeyer to be part of. I mean, I'm just going to call it a cabal. You guys are being controlled by Doug Havens and whoever else is behind him. And you guys ain't working for the people. You guys are money grifting, and you're not doing for the citizens. We got senior citizens that are making hard choices, having to pay a bill or getting some food for the month. Because you guys, we're the highest tax bracket in Idaho. Why? When we could be cutting everything back to essential spending. And then I know a good friend, he talked about cutting back 10% to start with, you know, start cutting the budget, start cutting everything, just cutting everything. It can be done. If you want to fix this thing, you guys can be doing it, but you guys are taking money and putting it to, which we know what you're gathering the money for, you know. It's not for the citizens. It's actually quite disgusting, because you should be working for the citizens. And now you guys are making us possibly have to do a hard choice of not just running for these 3 seats, but possibly recalling, you know, which we had to shut down it wasn't just me, it was a whole group of people that are just tired of it, had to shut down the Avista thing, and not happy about that. So you turn around and now you're trying to do a water tax thing, whatever, because of the Avista thing, you know, and it's just, the people are done. We're sick of it, you know. And the Joe Gish thing, we all know that's with Gary Peters, and we all know he broke into the airport and stole 7 hard drives. And if it was done properly, the Department of Homeland Security would have thoroughly investigated, but this stuff all got swept under the rug, and you guys are complicit with them, with Gary Peters and this whole agenda of, we know what's going on. We know what the money's being pulled together for. And frankly, it's quite disgusting when we got 15,000 senior citizens right now are sick of this. 15,000 plus senior citizens that are just tired of getting taxed and beat to death. When you came along and you talked about working for small businesses and cutting taxes, and you broke your oath, what you were running on. And it's horrible. You know, we're done.
Thank you. I hear you. Thank you.
You hear, but you didn't do anything.
Hi, Ada Eldridge. I just wanted to talk on the considering Joe Gish for the URA for the second time. I'm not sure why that's all of a sudden up again, I guess, because you guys voted it down the first time, so now it's being tried again by someone. But I don't agree with Joe Gish being on the URA, and people in town, they talk to me about everything they're doing behind the scenes and emails they're sending, and I was told that the URA has suggested him being put on there, and I'm just saying that this is what I heard. I'm not saying it's true, Mayor, but you supposedly told someone that nobody else has applied. So, you know, I guess Joe's going to get it. But I would think that something like that, it's that important. I think we don't need to just give it to whoever because he's the only person that applied. I believe that we should wait until we get somebody that has unbiased and is not tied to going to get benefits from being on the URA. You know, it's top heavy towards the port and the airport and the tourism things that are going on. So it seems like we shouldn't add one more person that's also knowingly tied to the port and the airport and the tourism and all that's going on. It's going to be an unfair voting system then, because anything that's going to benefit that section of town, of course, they're all going to band together and they're all going to vote for that and use the money to help themselves and use the money to help the people in the airport authority board and what they want. It's just giving an extension of one board of people. Now they have a second board of people that have access to our money that they can use for their pet projects. So I just really want you all to consider that. And Councilor Schroeder brought up that Mr. Gish had threatened litigation against the city. And that is the absolute truth. He did it more than one time. He did a lot of horrible things. When Nygaard was here before, he did a lot of horrible things to the city, and he lied a lot to the city, and he threatened a lot, and he was behind the whole change that brought you all sitting here right now. I don't know. I can't be the only person that sees when somebody goes and changes the city's government, and then they go and place themselves in all these positions in that change. I can't be the only one that sees this person's got their hands too much in what's going on here. And the same thing has happened at the Republican Central Committee, where Maureen Anderson, nobody else wanted to do it, so now she's in there too. And I don't think that's how we need to run things. We don't need to just give positions away to people because they're the only one that has said, I want to do it. And I think you all agree because of what happened at the meeting when you voted it down. I just really want to drive the point home that I think you should keep it open until somebody good applies that doesn't have their hands in all the other places in town. Because it's starting to be that a certain set of people have their hands in every money situation in this town. At the same time that now citizens are being asked to give more and more and more and more. It just could be a coincidence, or it could be the plan from the get-go, which, you know, I think it is. But anyways, I just ask you to please consider that. And I also wanted to say, too, thank you for letting this gentleman speak for longer than 3 minutes, because that was really sad to hear what happened with his family. And I hope you guys can do something to help him. But thanks for not cutting him off when 3 minutes was up. That was really kind of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Ada.
Thank you, Ada.
City Clerk Ravencroft.
Mayor, City Council, staff, and citizens. After nearly 36 years of walking in the back door of City Hall, I'll soon be retiring, and tonight's my last City Council meeting. I would say that I'm going to miss not having Monday night meetings and taking minutes, but I'll have to admit I probably look forward to that. I want to thank the City of Lewiston for an amazing career. I never would have guessed that I would still be here when I was signing the enrollment paper at the age of 18 years. I have worked with numerous city managers and mayors, an abundance of counselors, and so many staff, many of which have become great friends. I met amazing people in this community that I would have otherwise not known, and even several of those who just called to complain, now called to say, hi, how are you? When I began with the city, I don't think I even realized what politics were. It was such a different world. Employees got together for camping trips, barbecues, beach parties, bowling, or just to get together after work. And I have to say, I was usually leading that pack. We worked as a team, we trusted each other, we relied on each other to do our jobs, we had fun, and it truly felt like an extended family. Unfortunately, things have changed. Though employees continue to work hard, provide great customer service, do their jobs well, and really work hard, trust, reliance, and gratitude for them from the top are key to ensure employee morale is high. My beautiful daughter Lindsay was born into the City Hall family. She's now 33 years old. I have a great son-in-law and 2 amazing grandchildren, Kinley, age 7, Cohen, age 5, who I plan to spend a lot more time with. My husband, Don, who I'm extremely blessed to have in my life, and he's here tonight. And I plan to camp, travel, build up our crafting business, and enjoy life. I'm ready for this next chapter, and I look forward to days filled with joy. I would like to say one more thing to some of the residents of Lewiston. Please be nice. Harsh words and bullying are extremely painful. I encourage you to learn the truth before you go to social media. If you would really like to help make a difference, there are numerous volunteer opportunities. Having a position in city government can be very difficult. Most do their very best to make this community a great place to live. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. You will be missed, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie, for sharing those words. Are there further citizen comments tonight? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight and sharing with us. Next up is presentations, Roman numeral 4, financial report, June 2023, financial report for June 2023 in accordance with Idaho Code 50-208. We have Director Gordon here to present this report. Director Gordon, please introduce yourself for the record and remember to speak up loudly and clearly so that those listening at home may hear what you have to say. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Amy Gordon, City Treasurer. I'm here this evening to present to you our third quarter financial report for the fiscal year 2023. We are now 75% of the way through our fiscal year, which ends on September 30th. The outlook at the end of June is very similar to where it was at the end of March. We have 2 funds that are trending to be beyond budget. Those are the same funds that we were looking at the end of March, which is the Workers' Compensation Fund. Council has received the list of amendments for fiscal year 23, and there is an amendment on there to add additional funds to the workers' comp from their own reserves, which will cover the high claim costs we've had this year. As I presented in March, we are actually lower on claims this year than we have been in previous years, but we just have a lot of the costs from prior year claims that have carried into this year with several surgeries that have occurred this year. And then our water fund. Look at our workers' comp fund, but the water fund. So this stems from several amendments that are going to be before council this summer to approve. These amendments are amendments we've discussed previously in council meetings. And the biggest one, there's a $9.3 million amendment, which is to get all the remaining funds that are left on the bond into this year. Construction has been progressing better than we had estimated coming into the 2023 budget year. So this will allow us to fully spend down the bond funds and complete our project this year. There is also a $1.4 million amendment on the amendment list, which is a water line project that is being fully funded by the Idaho Transportation Department. And then there is the $3 million emergency resolution to spend from water reserves in relation to the reservoir rupture. The water fund also received $7.3 million from the state of Idaho ARPA funds. Those are $7 million of that's been appropriated in the proposed fiscal year 24 budget, but there's about $300,000 that will be spent this year on design work. So those are all the amendments that will bring that budget back up to the level it needs to cover the projects happening this year. Another one item in this financial report that's different and unique from the previous financial reports you've had for this year and just unique in general is we closed out the golf fund. So now that we're no longer under a lease agreement on the golf course and those operations are being handled but through a professional management contract, we're bringing that activity within the general fund. That allows us to share resources of the general fund. So I had to make the entries though to close that fund out, and the entries were complicated. It took me a little while to work through them. I set a meeting up with the auditors to make certain I was thinking through the entries correctly. And you have a golf fund that's left with these assets, and when you close it out, the golf fund is like a loss of on a sale of assets because they're giving away these assets to the general fund who inherits these assets, and then to them it's receiving assets for no money, so it becomes a contribution to the general fund. So within the general fund's intergovernmental line item, there's an entry there for them to inherit those assets. Then likewise, the general fund has to record a complementary expense, just as if they had received money and went and purchased the asset. And then in the golf fund, there's the expense to release those assets to the general fund. So it's just bringing those entries to a full transparency. So you see the transaction in full on both the golf fund books and the general fund books. And that's really all I have for you tonight, but I do want to share two comments that I had a counselor reach out and ask some questions today, and they were really good questions and something that I think is worth pointing out. I don't have it in my presentation, but you'll see throughout your financial reports, we have a revenue line item is titled Other, and those tend to trend far below budget. And that line item is where we will budget for use of reserves. So when we write our budget to make it a balanced budget, if we have a $40 million budget and we're planning on spending $10 million of savings, we're only going to have $30 million of of revenues, and then this $10 million use of reserves. But that's not actually revenue we're receiving this year. We received it in prior years and put it into savings. So that's why that revenue line item will always track lower than budget, because that's where that entry occurs, and it will occur throughout several funds, not just the general fund. And then the month of June, there are 3 payrolls. So we have our personnel services expense line item. If it looks higher than normal, it's because we paid 3 pay periods in June. So the city of Lewiston, we process payroll on a biweekly method. So twice a year, there'll be 3 pay periods within 1 month. And that's all I have this evening, unless there are any other questions.
Councilors, Councilor Lidkey?
I just have a comment, just to reiterate what I emailed you, and that was, it's always fun to go through revenues and see numbers of percentage used of 4,400% or 33,000% on some of these numbers, and that was due to the work to make sure our interest was where it needed to be. And so I just commend you and the staff and the city leadership to make sure that we were having our money work for us. And it's very apparent in this 3rd quarter. So well done.
Councilor? I don't see further comments. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Next up, council, we have the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these issues unless the councilor so requests, in which case the item would be removed from the consent agenda and considered on the active agenda under items moved from the consent agenda. Councilor Towsley, were you trying to get my attention?
The dramatic paper touch here on this microphone. I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor Towesley, seconded by Counselor Schroeder to approve the consent agenda. Is there discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Actually, it is a roll call, isn't it? Counselors, forgive me, getting ahead of myself here. Clerk Ravencroft.
Council President Lidkey,
Aye.
Counselor Towesley,
Aye.
Counselor Forsman,
Aye.
Counselor Schroeder,
Aye.
Counselor Kleber,
Aye.
Counselor Spickelmeyer.
Aye.
Thank you, counselors. Next up, we have the active agenda. Item A, RFP 23-011 Financial Audit Services. Considering award of RFP-23-011 to Personnel Gage PLLC to engage Personnel Gage PLLC as the city's auditing firm. Also to be recommended for the Lewiston Urban Renewal Agency and the City of Lewiston Employee Benefit Trust audit. As recommended by the City Evaluation Committee for the agreement term 093023 audit with a 4-year annual option through FY27. This is an action item. Counselors, if you need to hear from Director Gordon, she's prepared to answer any questions you may have. Else, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I do have one question.
Counselor Lidkey?
Director Gordon, I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. We put out an RFP. We were notified by a firm that they weren't going to put in, and then we only ended up with one proposal, correct?
That's correct. We did reach out to any prior proposers to let them know it was being advertised. And one of those did reach back out to us to let us know that they didn't have the resources to apply this or to propose this year. That's correct.
Counselor Schroeder?
It's a motion in order.
Motion's in order, Counselor.
I move to award RFP-23-011 to Fresnel Gage PLLC.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Schroeder, seconded by Counselor Kleber to award RFP-23011 to Personnel Gage PLLC. Is there discussion? Not. Clerk Ravencroft?
Council President Lidkey,
Aye.
Counselor Towesley,
Aye.
Counselor Forsman,
Aye.
Counselor Schroeder,
Aye.
Counselor Kleber,
Aye.
Counselor Spickelmeyer.
Aye.
Thank you, counselors. Motion passes. Next up, we have item B, Resolution 2023-33, considering adopting the Stormwater Policy and Design Manual. This is an action item. And we have Public Works Director Dustin Johnson with us here tonight. Director, welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Dustin Johnson, Public Works Director, here to introduce to you Resolution 2023-33. I spoke to you about this probably 2 weeks ago. This is essentially replacing a 1980 stormwater policy that has been in the books. This tonight, Resolution 2023-33 adopts the what staff has been working with essentially it's the updated version of all the stormwater design manual. So this is to stay in compliance with our stormwater federal permit. The typical citizen would not ever come in contact with this. This is more intended for designers, contractors, anybody who does construction or designing work within stormwater. The parameters outlined within the table of contents call out basically what is a type of storm that is required to be designed for within the city of Lewiston, kind of the best management practices for construction and post-construction, the design for pretreatment facilities such as sand and oil water separators, infiltration facilities, ponds, and all the best management practices that goes with all of that. I did misspeak last time I talked to you. I did tell you that we were going to take it in front of the Public Works Advisory Council But we decided not to, mostly before, in the interest of time. It's a several hundred-page design manual. I'm going to tell you from an engineering perspective, it's very dry. It's just for reference. A lot of tables outlining guiding documents that the contractors and city staff will rely on to establish the standards for construction in Lewiston. So we did not take the whole document to the Public Works Advisory Council. The DEQ is interested in reviewing what has been adopted. So with your approval tonight, we will adopt this. It will allow us to be in compliance with our overarching stormwater permit with the state and feds. And as we work with the DEQ and the state and federal agencies as far as updates necessary, those updates and modifications will be going through the Public Works Advisory Council further down the road. I think I'm not going to go through page by page. As I said, it's a heavy document, but I'm here for questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Director. Councilors, Councilor Leahy?
I just want to make sure this is the final, because it still has October 2010 on the header of each page. So we're going to keep it.
That was when it was drafted in expectation that MS4, our stormwater permit, was coming. Our preference is to keep that date so we know when it was drafted. So when we make future modifications, that future date will be set on any future additions.
Follow up.
Councilor Leahy?
And then also, we have not updated our stormwater master plan. It says 2001.
We're correct. We do need to update that. That needs to be amended.
Okay.
The one that was adopted in 2021 or 2, I believe yes, that needs to be updated.
It's early on in the document. It won't take you long to find the reference. And then just one more follow-up, just so that we're very clear. I did read it. Make sure I did not glaze over. There is no reference to any fees, correct? In this
Correct.
document. This is a
Correct.
guide on how to design, make updates, make corrections to the stormwater system.
Correct. This is a requirement of our stormwater permit administered by the state DEQ. This has nothing to do with a stormwater utility or anything other than future design standards that construction in the city will be built to for stormwater.
Councilor Schroeder?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, motion's in order.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-33.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Schroeder, seconded by Councilor Kleberg to approve Resolution 2023-33. Is there discussion? Councilor Spicklemeyer?
Yeah, I had just a question, I guess a comment. It's kind of opposite, but with this new manual and our existing stormwater system, is our existing system in compliance with this manual? Or once this goes into effect, we will have to upgrade a lot of our systems?
This doesn't trigger any it says any future redevelopment or new construction has to comply with these guidelines. Fully acknowledging a pipe that was laid in downtown in 1900 doesn't comply with those laws. So when we replace that pipe, it's not a law. With those standards, that pipe will then be brought up to these standards. So it doesn't require us it doesn't put us instantaneously out of compliance. It just means any future construction from this date forward will meet these standards.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kleberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I'm fully supportive of this, and I have been for many years. I know this is taking a lot of rewrites and stuff. So you guys, I think you've done a good job. And when it comes down to the fees, that's going to be a different discussion. But at least getting this back on the books and bringing it up to where we're not going to court over our stormwater utility, I think is a good move. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy?
I just want to clarify that we don't need to address the amendment to the master plan, the updated master plan. It references an older master plan.
Kayla Herman, City Attorney. You could either do a separate motion to amend to make that correction, or an easier way to handle that, since it is just a quick fix, would be if Counselors Schroeder and Kleberg are willing to make a friendly amendment to make that correction as part of the motion to approve the resolution.
Could you restate your motion then, please?
Okay, so you're going to have to help me, Kayla, when it comes time. I move to approve Resolution 2023-33 with the,
I think you could simply reference the correction that Council President Lidkey noted regarding, was it the date associated with the master plan? Yes.
correct, the date associated with the master plan be adjusted.
The correct adoption date. Yes,
Okay.
that works.
Thank you.
Now second that.
Councilors, further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Ravencroft?
Aye.
Counselor Towesley,
Aye.
Counselor Forsman,
Aye.
Counselor Schroeder,
Aye.
Counselor Kleberg,
Aye.
Counselor Spickelmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, councilors, and thank you, Director. That was a lot of work. Next up, we have Roman numeral 8, unfinished and new business. Item A, City Councilor comments. Comments shall not be related to an item currently before the council or an item that may come before the council in the foreseeable future and shall be limited to comments, not discussion. Councilors?
Mayor?
Councilor Forsman?
I don't know if any of you have seen in the theaters The Sound of Freedom, but it's a good movie to go watch. I don't know your opinion on it, but there's some eye-opening things in there, and I just think that we need to be protecting our children and being aware of the evils of the world. So I hope you go see it. The more that we do that, hopefully the light comes and we can get a handle on that.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Towesley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to commend Carrie from the first day that I walked on this job, she has treated me as if I was an old guard, and always with respect and always with friendship, and I appreciate that, and I'm going to miss you at the short period of time that we've had, and I hope I'll still be seeing you from time to time. Also, I am at a place where I believe that it is best for me to resign my position as a liaison for the City Council for the URA. And I think it's an important organization. I think it has an important function within the city and within the county. And I honestly believe that the people who are involved in the URA have extremely good intentions of pursuing projects that will make our city and county that much better. And I think that it needs institutional knowledge for it to safely work through the trials and travails that happen from time to time. And I don't believe that I have the knowledge base to do that effectively. And for that reason, I will be resigning that position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further council comments? Councilor Kleber?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I talked to Councilor Towesley about this the other day. He asked if I would, I guess I'm the alternate on that, if I would be willing to step up and be the council representative on the URA. And it's been a little while since I've dealt with a lot of URA stuff, but I've got enough stuff at my house that I could probably go back and refresh my memory. And at the pleasure of the council, I'd be happy to do it. If not, that's fine too.
Further council comments? Okay, mayor comments. Well, actually, city boards and commission. Liaison updates. Are there any? Councilors? Councilor Schroeder?
Yes, I attended the PWAC, the Public Works Advisory Committee meeting, and we do so many great things there, and there's such a great dialogue that I don't have any notes in front of me to say, but this has been a very interesting committee, and I'm so glad to be on it finally after a 3-year wait. But I apologize that I cannot update you so much on it because there was so much that we covered. Thank you.
Mayor?
Councilor Forsman?
Okay, so Public Works, that's the first one. We brought up going over speed limit.
That's right.
And so we'll be diving into that world. So I'll be learning a lot. And I've invited some other experts into it too, so we can get as much information as we can and hopefully make some good moves that we can bring back to council at a later date. I don't know the date of that yet, so, because we'll have probably a lot to go through. But the committee seemed excited about it. It was something that we could make a move on and feel like we're making some strides. And there's a lot of knowledgeable people on that committee, so I'll be excited to see what they bring to the table. Parks and Rec, I went to the community park event where you went with like a scavenger hunt kind of, and then you got to put your name in a drawing at the end. So I took my kids and my husband. It was hot, so drank lots of water. But it was good to see all the different, the pool and the activities that they provide, swimming classes, sports for your kids, their future plans, what they would like to see happen in the future. So hopefully maybe one day we can see that come to something. But obviously we still need citizens to express their concerns, their comments, and what they'd like to see come out of that for the Public Works Community Park. That's something that land was bought a long time ago. I highly suggest you look into a lot behind that and the reason we have that land, because it's definitely eye-opening. I know it was for me. But just continue to express your concerns and comments or envision for that piece of property. So thank you for allowing me to be there, Public Works, because it was great.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Lidkey?
I just want to give a quick update on the Disability Advisory Commission. They submitted a letter to all of us drafting their support of the Public Works fiscal year 2024 budget. And I just want to commend them. The 7-member group, when we talk about leadership and when we talk about the great compromise, I happen to work in the same field as their discussions, and I see that they are able to come to the table with very differing views, very different backgrounds, but with a common goal in mind. And I hope that we take that into consideration as applications come forward, as people want to join. It shouldn't be one like mind. Can't have one person making decisions for the future of our city. We need a group of people that can have good conversation and come together to write a letter of support for a division that has been hit hard. And I have visited with each of those members, and they see what we have experienced. And it's funny about people with disabilities is that they tend to roll with the punches much more than folks that don't face barriers like they do. And they show an understanding for the fact that it takes time to make change. It takes time for leadership to adjust to change. It takes time for leaders that haven't always had to lead to learn how to lead. And I would just hope that we consider taking a look at that group, watching them and learning from them as we move forward into trying to lead this city.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor, further comments? Okay, mayor comments. 8C, first thing is, counselors, I'm just going to throw this out to you. I don't need a reply tonight, but please check in with the clerk's office and make sure that your contact information is current on the website. I've received a few emails and other questions about how to contact our counselors. And if you don't have a city cell phone and you'd like one, or if you don't mind using your own cell phone for city business, which means that items on your cell phone could be subject to public records. But in any event, there are people who would like to visit with you, and if I have your cell phone number, I won't give it out with your permission first, but again, I just ask, just make sure everything's up to date so that if we get the calls in City Hall, we can ensure that the citizens are able to get a hold of you. The second thing I have here is I was contacted by the citizens for the preservation of fish and dams. As you remember, they stood before you a couple of times to talk about fish and dams in our community, and they're putting together what they call a Pacific Northwest Fish Symposium, August 17th, from 8:30 to 5 at Walla Walla Community College to talk about fish and dams in the area. So if you have an interest in that, I'll publish that, put it on a bulletin board. I'd like to thank the library. Whether we pay attention to it or not, they do a pretty good job of updating our art in here, and they have a different medium that they're showing off at this time. But if you have a chance, take a look at it and see some of who our authors are. I think they put a lot of time and effort to make this a nice place for everyone. A quick comment about the URA, Councilor Kleberg and the rest of the council. With Councilor Kleberg's, Councilor Towsley's notice of resignation tonight, the process is that Councilor Kleberg currently serves as the alternate. And so my intention is to bring a nomination to you at the next council meeting. It'll be a work session in August for the nomination of Councilor Jim Kleberg to the URA board to replace Councilor Towsley. So just so you know that will be coming forward. Councilor Kleberg, you probably need to contact the city clerk's office and make sure there's nothing else we need to have on file before we do that. And then the last thing, I want to thank our citizen comments tonight for talking about our boards. They're very important to us, and we always need more citizens who are able to serve in some capacity, whether it's an advisory board, a commission or something. We have a lot of them, and the more applications we get, then the more selection we have. And we want to hear from you. It's important to hear your ideas, have you be part of your government. And so if you can help spread that word, those of you that are here tonight, and those of you listening at home, we would love to hear from you. Next item up is Roman numeral 8D, Advisory Board and Commission Appointments. This is an action item, and I have before you tonight, councilors, Urban Renewal Agency, considering the appointment of Joe Gish to a 3-year term. I'm bringing this back for your reconsideration, just for everyone's information and benefit. I was contacted by several individuals asking if the council would consider this appointment again. And I also spoke with some of the councilors, and they know who they are, and we discussed this. And I did contact Mr. Gish after hearing from some folks that were interested in this to see if he would even be interested in standing for an appointment again, and he consented to that. So this is not a surprise to him. I did not contact him. This was all brought about by other folks who were interested in his appointment. I also want to say that I very much appreciated his and Mr. Peters' attendance at a city council joint work session with the county, because I thought they did a pretty good job of explaining to the council a little bit more about Joe's qualifications and his interest in serving on this board. We heard from several folks, so again, I thank you for that. With that, councilors, I'm going to make a motion to appoint or nominate Joe Gish to a 3-year term on the Urban Renewal Agency.
Second.
Who's the second? Councilor Lickey. It's been moved by Mayor Johnson, seconded by Councilor Lickey to appoint Joe Gish to a 3-year term on the Urban Renewal Agency. Is there discussion? Councilor Kleber?
Yeah, a little discussion. I'm just, you know, I've been doing this for a while. And for us to have an appointment being brought to us 2 meetings in a row seems to me a little odd. I just, and I understand you got contacted by some people. Not sure who those people are. I'm not saying I'm necessarily opposed to his appointment, but it just strikes me as odd that we're seeing this come up 2 meetings in a row. I'll just leave it at that.
Councilor comments?
Mayor,
Councilor Forsman?
I have to second Kleber's comments there. I was blindsided. I don't really like that. I feel that this feels a little bit strong-armed. And we're supposed to make a choice, and I feel like we made that choice as a council. And then it comes back up, which makes, and I might make enemies here, but it makes me feel like the choice of the council wasn't respected from the first time. And so for that, I just can't agree with this. And before I was on board, but this has me questioning the URA, and I kind of want to go through that more and get more educated on that, because this just feels a little underhanded.
Well, Councilor Forsman, I'm going to ask you to clarify your statement. What you mean by underhanded?
It seems sneaky.
It seems what?
Sneaky. I don't know. It's just coming back. I thought we'd maybe have a little more time to go over it, and then immediately it's right back on as soon as the council has made the first decision. I didn't know anything about it until I saw it on the agenda yet again. And so I'm just, for that, I don't feel right about it.
Mayor?
Councilor Towsley?
Thank you. I voted no in the first time around, and I had reasons that I believe were satisfactory, and I've since attended a URA meeting again, which I was the liaison. The fact is that we have had an opening for that for months. People have not come forward. And there's a time when you need to move on. And for that reason, on this vote, I will be supporting Mr. Gish's nomination.
Councilor Spickelmeyer?
Thank you, Mayor. And I supported it, Joe, before, and I really support this re-vote, if you want to call it that, because I think there were some accusations made, and if they swayed any of the votes, did or did not. I think that when Joe spoke to the council and cleared up a lot of it, I just think sometimes some of our votes are driven by, personal or political sides, and I think in these boards and commissions, you need a broad range to come up with a good final answer. I think Joe would be a great addition to the commission, so I will be supporting it.
Further council comments?
The one that hasn't talked, so if I can interject quickly, I voted yes. I'm the airport liaison. I've watched Mr. Gish be the treasurer. Contrary to comments I've heard from different community members, I've seen him question decisions. I've seen him ask for clearer and more documentation to support things that they've discussed on a fiduciary manner. I've seen nothing but a forthrightness of him just wanting to know the truth, and for that was the reason why I supported it in the first case. And to the comment about we make personal bias decisions, and I none of us can deny that, but I will say that there have been multiple appointments over the last 18 months that pretty sure that those people and I do not attend the same political forums. And I chose to vote yes for those people because, again, the best way to get through and get the best decisions is to have differing opinions, differing backgrounds, so that we can come to the best compromise that fits the city. So I will be supporting this appointment.
Councilor Schroeder.
Thank you. The makeup of the URA is one elected official from the city, from the county, and from the port. And the other 4 are at large. Now, the monies that are in the URA are predominantly, and the projects are predominantly city. It could almost be 100% city monies if you take in the fact of the taxes that are paid by the citizens to the other 2 entities. So when you look at a board, the makeup of the board, if it's heavy in one, actually, if it's heavy in one segment of our community, that creates an undue influence on how the community reacts to how the URA board functions. And with it being predominantly city and city money, and yet we would have a very close, if not a majority vote from the county and not the city if he was to be elected to that board. And I personally, that really personally upsets me that we have gotten to that point. And I would really like to, because of all of this, have the URA look into how they deal with their membership and how do they make those decisions. Because this board should be equal, at least not a majority of one segment other than the city. Because it's predominantly our projects, predominantly our money. I will not be voting for him.
Councilor Towsley.
I would just point out, I don't disagree with what Representative Schroeder is saying, but I would point out that anything that benefits the city ultimately benefits the county as well. And I mean, it is a symbiotic relationship. So it's important. The URA does do important things for the city, but it has a cumulative effect within the county as well. So I would think that anyone who wishes to be on the URA has the outlook for the good of the entire community at heart, regardless of whether there's a county line or a city line. So.
Councilor Lippy.
Just a clarifying question. I'm trying to figure out county representation higher than city. I know that there is a county resident, but is that the county commissioner? Because doesn't he live in the city limits? I'm just trying to figure out the predominantly and the vote that Councilor Schroeder is speaking to. And I don't know where everybody lives, so maybe I'm just lost.
Well, what is it? Shelley Bond works at the airport. And Mr. Gish is on the airport board, so that's weighted. And Joe Anderson, I believe he's county as well. And then Don Beck, who is the appointee, elected official. Oh, does he? Okay, I knew he had his farm outside of that and he works in the port. So but still it's 3. It would be 3, close to a majority, I said, close. So I just think it's something we should look at with the URA and see how they manage that.
Thank you for the clarification. I would love to look at the URA. I'd like to look at their performance. I'd like to look at their bylaws. Maybe it is something that we completely revamp or dissolve. So maybe
Well, I
that's a
hope-
future agenda item.
I hope we never dissolve it. It is our best tool, and I am totally in support of it, but I would like to see how they're managing it. And maybe it just needs to be adjusted or tweaked.
Councilors, if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Thank you, councilors. Next up is item E, agenda topics. Councilors.
Mayor,
Councilor Lidkey.
in reference to Counselor Schroeder's points, I would really like to see the URA being discussed at a work session, possibly a report. I know that the fiscal year 2022 report is out, but maybe they could give us a preliminary report, tell us where they are, current projects, and how they are currently being managed. Would help us move forward.
I need a second.
Councilor Forsman.
I need a second.
It wasn't a motion. Councilor Towsley.
Yeah, I would like to add for a future work session, possibly September, to revisit a possible warming facility or homeless shelter situation. I would like to have appropriate entities invited to help with the discussion.
Oh, we don't have to do that, do we? I'm sorry.
Councilors, I will get both of those on a future work session. Is there further topics? Okay. Hearing none, brings us to Roman numeral 9, adjournment.
I'd move to adjourn.
Second?
It's been moved by Councilor Lidkey, seconded by Councilor Schroeder to adjourn. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.